A lot of data, however, is exclusive to the internet and, unfortunately, unable to be recovered, so I will personally fill in the missing requirements to understand my choices. Prior to Roblox, and as you've known me, I have been a rather staunch, semi-anti young man suffering from depression. Out of that, I wanted to achieve a dream. A singular vision I had single-handedly set for myself. I still remember my insatiable grunting in frustration at a certain game. You may have seen me play it actually. Enter, Animal Cross. A game built by a man that simply had a passion for making games. I enjoyed said game with its fluid, yet simple mechanics for the time, and how funny and enjoyable it was to play a pioneer in the anime fan project scene. The roster was small, but pretty cool, and people could find someone fitting of their playstyle. However, little did I, or my other friends, know. The man who created the game, Sekirin, had no other wish than to make a quick buck off of other people's eggs. We thought nothing of it at the time, but Animal Cross progressively became worse and worse with every update. A hint of gamma played prior to the release of Aladdin of Magi may show you, in my opinion, and to many others, a golden age. It was the best the game was going to get. We didn't know that at the time. But immediately upon his release, we saw the game go right down the shitter. We are talking multiple projectiles that stun lock everyone, instant casting of pillars that can appear everywhere, a giant ball with a hitbox bigger than the model even was. We knew the power creep was going to get higher. But, and as if that wasn't enough, Aladdin did so much damage that, oh god, it's giving me PTSD flashbacks from him solo killing full health juggernauts in one stamina bar. And that's the story on why I never play as a top tier character. So we were visibly pretty angry at Sekirin for letting this happen. You know what he did? Nothing. No nerf, no new mechanic to evade it, nothing. Not until the next content patch did we get a nerf for Aladdin. To irrelevance for some reason. But in its place, get ready for the worst update to a fan game in the history of man here. Sekirin locked transformations, the single biggest turnaround mechanic for players, and even a central required system for Goku and a lot of other lads to even function properly, to noobs. We, the people who had been playing for a long time, weren't affected, but that didn't mean it didn't suck monkey farts. Because of this, I've seen people struggle to even get a coin drop. A singular coin drop. Let alone fighting anyone with a transformation anyway. It basically killed the game for anyone who didn't want to be a punching bag or a whale. Many people even went out of their way to pity reset, so that those lads could even progress to the character they wanted. And that wasn't even the worst of it. You let updates like these slide and all the elitist gouge bag beta males come out of the woodwork. So, if you got enough of these guys running around, funked. You wanna know why? The new characters, the highly anticipated Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Suna from Hitman Reborn, where speculation had been around for months to how they played. Broken as shit. I don't mean they were unusable like Ichigo was, he had only one offensive technique, and when he transformed, it kills him. I mean, that they were way too good, and there was no 100% working counter to all the bullshit they could throw. Jotaro was pretty meh all around due to how gimmickish his stand was, but the stop time ability he had, it was the best move in the game. Not only that, he was basic hitting on par with sword users, when he was transformed. What did that mean? Instant death, if you weren't blocking, and an 80% life combo with all your stamina gone, if you were. And even worse, all ranged attacks and most melee attacks wouldn't come out, so the previously top tier, spammer, mod from Mob Disco 100 couldn't do shit to Jotaro. And don't even get me started in Suna. A charge move paired with a double beam that covers his X coordinates and a mouse click super that snipes Za from the other side of the stage. Almost no one could hit him without losing half their HP from how big the hitbox was. The only one that could do anything against them was a transformed Deku from My Hero Academia. You know why? Because his attacks still go through time stop and have good melee range. Because of that, a previous mid-tier became the anti-gay strat against a singular one of these top tiers. If there were multiple, no, you couldn't win that conflict. Ya simply would be out-cheesed. So, the update worsened the quality of life for new players, made the recurring players' playing experience look like fucking Dunkirk, and, well, I would have said ruined the roster balance, but Killer already gotta go fasted too hard. The final update by Sekirin kinda sucked a bit less, mostly, because everyone could transform again. It kinda changed into an Overwatch mechanic, where you can only transform when the game says you can rather than something you achieve yourself. Shot anyone who had a charge move in the foot. But, remember, how I said Killer was the Sonic the Hedgehog of the game? Doesn't do much but is fast, as fun and annoying. 5 new characters. And I'll make a chart so I don't have to rant so hard. Ultra goddamn fast, Sakura, Rukia, Katsuki to big hitboxes, base to mini hitboxes, great hits to hard, all of them other. Sakura has a self-healing passive and a self-healing ability. This has so many problems. So you got 3 people that outdate the same character just by existing, and 2 ranged lads that are too busted for their own good. You can see why I'd want to give people a better experience. Alright. Now that you know the full story on why I got into game development, and why I want to be the best one possible, from which the time I first stepped into my Discord chatroom with my friends, the journey had truly begun to pour its wisdom into your young soul. Through countless victories, negotiating, but most importantly, losses, I understood what it's like to work with other people. However, the waters were never still, for constant change, conflict. Many things that normally would be tossed aside would spell the premature end of a hard-fought dream. But it didn't hinder me. Rather, it made me even stronger, and able to stick to my convictions harder than ever before. This is my story. January 28, 2017, the start of Animal Crossing KG. This was when my true creative talents went to full effect, and I started making games that aren't aggressive shitposts. The core concept of Animal Crossing KG was straightforward. A game where teamwork and stage awareness would prevail, and the game was heavily built to achieve that. For example, Naruto was designed as a tank, Sasuke a damage dealer with low health, Goku would be a berserker made for doing close-range damage, and Vegeta an interference type. The game originally was only going to be those 4, until a patch could be made, and early concept art told this tale rather well, with all 4 characters being present on the logo. They didn't look great, but it was my first time, and I thought my ideas would suffice. Not many people helped make this dream a reality until my best friend, Lord Shadness, helped an idiot out by giving me active support and recruiting lads to help me, along with my own recruitment methods. As the team got bigger, I began to think bolder, expanding my ideas to truly make itself a game in its own right. Unfortunately, we couldn't fit everything in due to the lack of expertise for all of us. A few cuts had to be made, like all the stages being in the air rather than instanced, or only having 7 characters, with only Goku being a non-Naruto representative. It was hairy, but seeing my vision come to life was like a dream coming true. So, the first iteration was dinky and had a ton of free models. But we loved it. Even joked about it being better than Final Bond. But everything was better than Final Bond. The outcomes of this game was that I gained a nice relationship with Firewalker and had my own crew of friends that could help make me feel better, despite the 4-month time frame this game was given to roam. However, nothing is complete without a bit of drama. You see, Oshii, or Izanagi 456, brought his friend to help out, who was a rather moronic, but composed individual named Lando. Upon hearing I was looking, he brought the babe. Everything started nice. He offered to make us a tune-in exam stage in exchange for a Kayakan script. We said yes, and we got the stage, but immediately the next day, the babe complained that it was a free model. Firewalker then said it was the best he could do and the babe wasn't having it. So he waited. Until he got so impatient he vandalized our Jokichi shrine trying to get banned. Turns out he was an asshole. Yeah, took us long enough. We told him we did his part of the deal, but he freaked out and told his buddies that we're some kind of con artist group and went on to call my vision impossible. We had to kick out a lot of people that day. Oh yeah, and we were constantly being raided by a fanatic that worshipped Toad as an all-seeing god. And, I don't tell this to anyone, but the whole Yomiastrian shitpost pro-Kagura religion was formed in response to it. The general principles of this religion followed the Communist Manifesto, the views of the left, and the extremist views of Yomi herself. It would be pretty influential to the games I'd create later on, despite being an inside joke. Of course, what comes after this are plan files detailing what exactly I was going to do, and the amount of consulting I have done. I'll take a break from the narration to show you. I also, for the first initial development project, put a lot of time into it and making sure to design an experience that would be fun for people who loved that sort of thing. This project and idea would later be abandoned for an battle simulator, until a renaissance happened. Basically, my parents said they really liked everything I did. So, a metric ton of determination was poured into me, and, well, I went even further, making it its own standalone thing, away from battle simulator's battleground style. Whenever I was bored, worrying about keepers too much, or just, when I became frustrated, I made it even better than 17-year-old me could ever imagine, and brought new friends aboard to make sure it was even better. All these new additions included me making map concepts, a whole new innovative story exploring emotions no one thought possible, cool Easter eggs, and even plans for an after update. Sometimes I forgot what was from the first run, or the second run. We have a sudden revelation that Hoshii can animate and script really well, thus the technical birth of this side of the project. But when does Cross Tenkaichi fully become Battle Simulator? The former was renamed to such under protection grounds, but it was still the same project, just under a different name. However, the Hoshii Boom is what we consider to be the first death of Cross Tenkaichi, and the birth of Battle Simulator. Early concepts still had a strong core foundation in teamwork and team composition, and even introduced some really interesting ways to play the same character. Unfortunately, due to lack of experience, we couldn't get that through. Rather, what the game was instead was an incredibly fast-paced speed fighter, unheard of in modern Roblox. The relative simplicity of it meant lots of characters could be added easily with not much effort, making the total roster go up to 29 playable, not including costumes. We also incorporated DLC through smart means of not making the game pay to win and even made the hallmark of Tomo games nowadays, to have extremely difficult boss fights, programmed by myself surprisingly enough. It even had an arching story that no one really paid attention to and emphasized how everything came to be. The plot was that the game you're playing is actually a simulation, made by a machine able to replicate player data. People would record their hero and villain data into the machine to create a chimerical game. With that premise, there are people would be around that you could talk to, furthering your knowledge of the game. You could watch TV in the lobby, all to intentionally simulate that experience of truly being there and waiting. Overall, the game was a massive success for people's happiness, but did not sell well. However, despite me creating the game I so desired, a bit simplified, if you will, the history of development was beyond awful. Slackers. Loads of slackers. Me, Hoshii, and Flash Gamer 2099 were the primary group of people to work on everything. Meaning, if either of us had a problem at all, the game got halted. Everyone else basically did nothing except be annoying. During the conceptation period of Battle Simulator, Amethyst Gamer waltzed in and donated. Happy, I let him into a high-ranking position, because I thought he was a good guy. He had this friend named Skippy who mindlessly followed whatever anyone said. He didn't know that at the time, and promptly became confused when Amethyst and I started fighting. What did he do? Delete everything in the game, and nuke the group. That, however, marked him as a scummy fuck and all his friends left him, for some reason, for me. Me and Skippy became what I thought were best friends. Now, Subvisual, the guy who was really good with graphical design and knew multiple scripting languages, made one logo and then promptly started complaining about every decision I made and begged for attention. Next thing I know, he leaves exactly 20 times for really questionable reasons, and, to be honest, we were all baffled. He also suggested that my game become gacha-based. It was kinda weird. However, one good thing he did was keep the new group up, which I sincerely thank the former him for. We had two development dark ages. One, when Hoshii got blocked from Roblox, and another when Hoshii mysteriously disappeared. But after which, we had golden ages. But one thing we could never fix was the involvement. Most of the polls, barely anyone showed up to. The Zoroastrian religion also got development and clear goals, being a part of the synchronist movement and encouraging lads to get to work. The original hosting of the project actually got taken down exactly twice, one when Amethyst Group locked it, and another, ironically also because of Amethyst, was when the source code to the original game was acquired by Pre. No worries, if you want to experience a taste of what the game is like, it's still open, but a huge amount of the content is missing either due to faulty Roblox tools or something in my end. The era, when the game did work 100% also had been never recorded into YouTube, so there's no real memory or snapshot of it either. August 10, 2017, My Hero vs Boruto Royal Rumble. Just before the first Dark Age was about to end, I was planning to make an battle simulator prequel to enriching the franchise. Essentially, it'd be the first series only project that I would plan, combining My Hero Academia and the new Boruto series. The general premise would be it'd have the same gameplay as the simplified version, but with a typing mechanic that evened out the field, and have slightly better special move effects. The game would also be the first to directly use a tag team mechanic, being designed as a two-character brawler rather than the traditional style. Using this feature, you could do team ultimates to down the opponent. Exactly 5 characters from each series would make it in, from each series, making a total of 10 playable characters from the start. Deku would return, as the main protag in this game, being an intelligence type, along with Ochako, Space/Time Tenaya, Combat Katsuki, Quirk Shadow, Quirk, Boruto, Ninjutsu Sarada, Jinjutsu Metal Lee, Taijutsu Shikadane Nara, Intelligence Metsuki, Taijutsu. Had the game been supported enough, Naruto and All Might respectively would have been free content. I also had DLC plans to port characters from Anime Battle Simulator to the game, and vice versa. But that never came to me. The social impact of the concept was enormous and, unlike the other games, gained relatively huge amounts of hype with people who had been following Anime Battle Simulator. Which wasn't much, but it made me happy. And, unlike most other projects, it would cement ideas which would be huge in other games even to this moment. Unfortunately, due to me being unable to outsource production of Anime Battle Simulator, the game never got past the character spawning. October 22, 2017, Senran Kagura, Blocks vs. During the first golden age, an idea I had, for a while came into fruition. A lot of my ideas were written down regarding this project, and it didn't get very well, due to a lack of enthusiasm within my community. The game was meant to be a whole Roblox game simulating what it is like to be a shinobi in that world. With a bit of my twists. It had a pretty in-depth customization system planned, and lots of thought was given into the creation of it. The social impact of the game's concept was actually pretty positive. It pretty much gave a lot of good ideas I'd later reuse in future projects, and people loved the idea of it. But it also was the time when I got banned for 3 days, because Roblox saw a nipple I didn't see until way after. Of course, don't go blaming the Roblox team. I was the kind of person to constantly test things, so it was natural that eventually my account would have been caught up in it. Being that Senran Kagura is the franchise to hold the literal best game of all time, I put a lot of effort and thought into the concepts, and I do mean a lot. You can almost see the love I had for the series out of it. Now that we've covered my passion project, as well as the one game that I actually worked the least on, all things considered, it's safe to move on. 4/2018. So, suddenly, as I was making a ton of content for Anime Battle Simulator, such as adding Zabuza, Jiren, and a bunch of other characters, I started production on Godlinks. Then all of a sudden, Oishii tells me he knows how to make memes. He then asks me if he can direct the sequel under my guidance, which I say yes to. And that's how Anime Battle Simulator 2 was born. The game was a lot slower and less fluid than the first, but it introduced a unique ability mechanic for each character. It also featured a dashing mechanic which would be improved upon in other games, and introduced dual characters, where they would fuse into one singular being. Throughout its time existing, it was an indiscriminate battle royale, although I had plans to make it adhere to the first game. New characters introduced that were never seen in other OBS games included Super Buyu, Obito, Godly and Trunks, Vegeta, as his own character, Zenobia from High School DxD, Ban and Kun from Tower of God, and Gani and Kaluna. There were many more planned in its run, but the great filtering-enabled exodus came to me, after some kid's Roblox avatar got raped in an online data hub, unfortunately killing the game. From the time I was directing it, I deemed it a total failure despite the new mechanics and shelved it, never to speak about it. But when I reflect back on it, it had an overall positive effect in development despite the inherent laziness of everyone who wasn't me or Oishii. It introduced new ideas which would become common in other games by me, and I generally regard it to be pretty funny and enjoyable. However, whenever a big project that actually gains fruition comes into existence, there's always drama. So Amethyst was being a stuck-up little bitch and bypassing the ban filter I put on him. People didn't like that I was pushing updates. Did I mention that in this game's lifespan, 3 months, Subvisual left a total of 20 times? And decided that he was a she now? So Skippy and Sub were fighting constantly. Flash didn't like that we were making edgy Chinese jokes, so he left for 2 months. Light also said the N-word. Oishii ditched 3 times to make a Saiyan simulator. Which I was somewhat okay with, because, if everything is burning around you, you won't mind someone taking a break. and I was the guy who had to stop all of it. With the help of SSJ5 Reborn, thank you so much for helping, good sir. Yes, the game is 100% gone. The latest version no longer exists, and like its prequel, also never got recorded. So, previously, I described there being Dark Ages, then Golden Ages, when it came to Anim Battle Simulator. A lot would be done in a Golden Age, before things became mediocre. I consider Anim Battle Simulator 2 to be the longest a Golden Age had ever lasted. And, well, its successor would be a subject of mediocrity. Of course it wasn't that way at the time, but some say it's the black sheep, the project I went all out for, not even knowing if it'd be even possible or not in Roblox. June 11, 2018, Anim Blocks Over Reborn. This project came to meant to be a tiny side project that I'd do a bit of. But then the great filtering enabled Exodus arrived. I immediately set out to make my grand opus. This was the culmination of all my experience, artistic talent, and knowledge of Roblox to make the best Anim fan project game ever made. With constantly changing events, a fragment system making it possible to own a character and not have to grind hard for them, with trading mechanics and beautiful boss fights that I made documents and documents for. All with a beautiful combat system that revolutionized the platform, as we know it. It truly was the greatest game idea I had ever conceived. The problem was, it was too good. The enthusiasm in the stage creating side was great, but everything else was severely backed up to the point where I did everything but the scripting myself. I met a good lad named Noob Overlord, and he was a great lad. Helped me out despite his schedule, and made the project almost come alive. However, the social impact, it's easily the biggest out of all of them, where the current game I'm working on is a slightly dumbed down version, but it also shot up a lot of relationships. Many people left over conscription practices, rage, anger, constant protesting. Even though I could do, and did everything I could to keep my child alive. Unfortunately, unlike the original text document that said it was well alive, it died. And it died hard. Practically no one who could code, other than Noob Overlord, wanted to be part of a game that functioned like a hybrid of a mobile game and a battlegrounds game. It truly was the black sheep. This game killed a lot of my friends' trust towards me, even though, at this time, it wasn't even my fault. However, what I call the Great Workers' Revolt of 2019, one of these conscription rules inspired by Yomiastrian ideals led to raids and direct overthrow orders directed at me, over nothing more than a simple "Hey, can you help me out?" Subvisual, now calling herself Luna, and Skippy, has now complete lapdog, left and basically torched everything I worked so hard to achieve, even destroying my Trello and relationships with my other friends. To the point where I had to join Outjust's gay role-playing server to even have a semblance of a relationship. Although Luna had no part in the torching and friendship ruining, that was all Skippy. Well, even though all that shit happened, I still kept going forward, which leads to me, well, leaving Roblox forever. Simply put, the platform was holding everything back and killing code before it was even finished. I didn't even know this would be the start of the longest, and most depressing dark age in my whole development career. The game was heavily dumbed down as well, eliminating the ultra-complex combo system, multiple passives, and pay-to-win elements completely. Instead, it became effectively a Sinram Kagura game, but with some mechanics from Anim Blocks Over Reborn. There'd be mounds and mounds of paragraphs saying how great this project was, event plans, manuals, plans for future content, stages, fancy menus, everything. I even went out of my way to make the menus look cool and unique despite me not knowing a thing about Unity. That's how much I cared. There was help. But it was very spotty compared to what Noob had done. Barely anything happened despite clear instructions, and I felt like I was actually losing my sanity and happiness by continuing to worry about it. There wasn't going to be any boobs, no fight mechanics, nothing like that. Not even a demo, because in total, about 4 hours worth of work had been done by people other than me. That was fucking depressing. And it showed. It kinda made me feel like that beggar who's always asking for things, who used to have a good life, but now got fucked in the ass, because society didn't give a shit about him, and now he has to rely on the mercy of others. I didn't like that I had to do this, not one bit. So, to drown out the void caused by this lack of progress, lack of faith, heck, even lack of friends who really cared, I started a bunch of projects knowing damn well I could never finish them. It was torture therapy. Dragon Ball, First Foresight was the crown jewel of those kinds of games. It was a game meant to bring back the feel of martial arts, character relevance, and an ability to choose your own lifestyle in the Dragon Ball world. As much love was put into said game, as I did for Blocks Versus, despite knowing it'd be a train wreck. After all, if people couldn't even figure out how to make a Senran Kagura-styled game, how the fuck would anyone be able to make a Dragon Ball MO? So, I'll let this excerpt do my work in explaining the project. I have to say, this game had an unnecessary, hectic development cycle to the point where despite all the work and forethought I put in, nothing could happen due to the incompetence of my workers. So, what exactly is this game? You know, how there's so many Dragon Ball Z games that let you fly, spam blasts, and overall look like an overinflated Lai Chow that they all feel the same? Martial arts, the whole reason why Dragon Ball was originally made, was completely forgotten about the moment the Saiyan saga ended. Dragon Ball is supposed to be a show where characters fight relatively smart, conceal their abilities, and not get predicted or otherwise falter in their thought. And considering how Z, GT, and Dragon Ball Super are hot shit right now, I don't think people really get the point. And more importantly, we've seen Goku's story done in video games since 1986, with only 3 deviations. Shin Budokai Another Road, the now offline Dragon Ball Online, and Dragon Ball Xenoverse. But only Dragon Ball Online is a 100% new, original story, with the other 2 being what ifs or fixing the timeline to be that of Goku's story. Yeah. Only one game to get a new concept out. Not even Roblox is safe from this, because Z is highly profitable. And even then, what about the tales of the minor characters who can or don't fight? The tech makers or anyone else who lives in the Dragon world just before Goku got his story? Dragon Ball First Foresight is the literal embodiment of what I believe a Dragon Ball game should be. It gives freedom to the player to outright change history, as they see fit. They can keep some characters alive, kill others, be a hero, a villain, a guy who just fights people for fun, you name it. And it's all about you. You get to make your plot threads out of what the game gives you. Just like all the martial artists and thinkers in the world, you can hone and improve your skills, abilities, strength, firepower, magic, and much more. Even more so, you can make your own dragon team with other players you meet, to help others or continue dominating the planet. Fight other teams and live open areas to see who gets the elusive Dragon Balls. All Victoria's world fully integrated into one singular stage for your pleasure. Dress up your character, hone them over, raid the environment, even have kids with another player. And any content that comes out is all free, except races and some mentors. Well, that's basically the end of that. But because it was therapy for me, not an actual doable project, it died incredibly fast. My next project would be a game abst in the Anime Symphogear series, which I highly revere to this day. Let's say everything loud will be much more doable than with Dragon Ball First Foresight. Imagine it, as if it was a simulator to how the in-series universe works. Believe it or not, unlike the other projects made in this Dark Age period, it's very much possible to make, and be relatively fun at that. If you haven't watched Symphogear already, I highly suggest you do so and support the official release. If you are wondering how this game will work, you control only one character, which you get to customize the appearance of entirely. After which, you pretty much live in the same world, and naturally, the goal is to get you pretty invested in this aspect. That being said, the rules of the game tie heavily into the rules of the verse. You are decisively normal in every conceivable way at your start in the game, and, unless you actively go searching for things, you'll remain that way. Once in a while, a noise or an alkanoise attack might happen, and you have a choice on what you want to do. Grab a gun and shoot, or head to an evacuation shelter. Good Symphogear users always are tasked to head over there to take care of them, as it's their moral obligation to protect people. Normal people can successfully kill an alkanoise, but normal noise are impervious to damage outside of special methods. The vast majority of relics in the world are under protection of governments around the world, hence why they aren't out yet, but there are a few you might find through various means. During a noise attack, if a noise breaks the Symphogear's weapon, there's a chance that a normal person might get a fragment of the relic pierced through their own body and have it stuck there. They have a choice on whether or not to remove said fragment when they end up in the hospital. Surgery can remove the fragment from them, but there's a 20% chance of death. Alternatively, you can keep it inside you and call upon the fragment as its own relic. Instead of dying, let's say it's on zero sleep. Something that might come back later. Because Seeds of Kagura has its own video, we'll be skipping over this project. I'd say, in terms of possibility to make, it's between Harmony's upkeep and First Foresight, though I don't know where. Of course, we need to address what led to my complete isolation during this dark age, so, let's go on to the big fish. project jobs to redo Anim Battle Simulator, not because I wanted to, but because Kangshat told me to, was pretty complex and I worked really hard in it, but like other high-effort ideas, nobody fucking cared. It died extremely quickly despite the work I put in, and I was frustrated, which led to my next project. Bootleg Anim Cross 2, well, was an Anim Cross 2 remake. It generally used assets from Anim Cross 2 and considered itself a mod. However, this pissed off everyone, and I mean everyone, not within Sekirin's community, but within the already hectic community from Anim Keepers. Despite the simplicity of this project, I lost almost all my friends trying to be a righteous asshole. Ironically, it could be what led to me discovering Tomo's appeal and effectively making the Dark Age hit its peak. Yes, technically the creation of Anim Keepers was ultimately what led to my downfall across my fake-as-hell friends. Some projects were done just to relieve boredom or for shits and giggles at this point. My dev life was extremely sad. Until, well, the start of the Tomo cinematic universe. Then, I learned to let go, and kinda went back to doing my own thing instead of looking for appreciation from everyone else. A Magical Exodus is effectively a stylized version of the events of my dev life, as well as my friendships. Then it was sad, but not as sad. Chill Place was still a piece of shit. Gangshat kept being Tito's supporters, and it wasn't, until I met fellow shitposters, and the commentary community, that I really felt confident in myself again. Of course, every project I didn't cover was mostly, because it's currently active, has its own video, or, because I sold it to Master for absolutely free.